Hello, my name is Guy Byers. This is the second in a series of Winscore tutorials to assist the scorer in how to use the Winscore program for a soaring contest. The topic today will be flight log management, how to organize the flight logs and get them into Winscore for processing. I'm going to give an overview of flight logs right now. Some of the more experienced scorers may want to skip past this part. Uh, and I think this is mainly focused toward the newer scores. Uh, as a background, the contest flight logs are stored in what's called an IGC format. Files containing flight logs are referred to as IGC files. These are basic text files you can read and edit. You can open them with the Notepad editor, WordPad, Emacs, whatever you like, and you can look inside there and basically make some sense of what's inside. I'll open one in a minute and you can see what's going on in there. These IGC files contain internal security mechanisms to prevent anyone from changing the file once it leaves the flight recorder, because these IGC files are created inside the secure flight recorder and again have mechanisms to make sure they're never changed or altered once they leave. The IGC format is specified by an FAI technical specification, as is the file name. I underline the file name here because that is important. We'll talk about it in a minute. And the technical specification link is there at the bottom of the page, and those who are technically curious may pursue that further. There is an oddball in the scoring system. It's called a Cambridge GPS nav file. They don't have the IGC file type. They have a CAI file type. These are generated by the older GPS nav units, model 10, 20, and 25. They don't generate IGC files directly. They generate the CAI file. It's a binary file. If you try and look at it with a Notepad, WordPad editor, you might see something you recognize and makes sense, but it will mostly be gibberish characters, and you can't do a lot with it. These GPS nav units are being phased out mostly, but you're still going to see them at contests, and people use them as backups, so they'll be around for quite some time. The good news is the CAI files can be converted to IGC files by Winscore, or you can get the Cambridge programs to do that. The important point about these files is security checks on the resulting IGC file will fail. Security must be performed on the original binary file. So if you get an IGC file generated by one of these loggers and try to do security, it will fail. The contestant must submit the original CAI file, then you check security on that file and convert to an IGC and proceed. Winscore can do all this automatically, but it's important bit of background information. Now let's touch on IGC file names. The file itself is generated by an approved flight recorder, and the approved flight recorder is given a specific name. It can either be a short file name or a long file name. Here are examples of both. If you look at the short file names, you'll see one there, 05J, C, etc., etc. These are not random numbers. The first three characters in the file name are the date. 0 stands for the last digit of the year, in this case 2010. The 5 is of course the month, and J, that character stands for the day of the month. 1 through 0 being the 1st through the 10th of the month, and then it starts with A on up. 05J represents May the 19th, 2010. The one below it, 05L, is the 21st. Now, going down, you have long file names, which are a little bit more easy to read, but both these are valid. Both these will work. And the IGC file names must be correct for Winscore to use them. Winscore will ignore files that do not have a name that meets the IGC standard, either the long standard or the short standard. For example, the following files we recognize. There's a short file name, begins with 05J, that's fine. A long file name, 2010 0519, that's fine. Even the next file is fine because the first three letters match the date of your contest. The fourth letter is the manufacturer's ID. That's sort of optional. And then the next 4 characters can be anything you want, as long as they don't conflict with any other files you have. But the following files are examples of files that will be ignored by Winscore. Someone obviously got a file that was 05J, etc., and then he decided to do some self-organization on it, and he did from my pda.igc. This does not meet the standard. Winscore will ignore it. Or the next example, final example on the page, the guy didn't like the file name at all, and he decided to call it Flight from Zulu Tango Day 2 IGC. This will be ignored by Winscore. It's not valid. It doesn't meet the standard. So therefore, one of your jobs as a scorer will be to learn how to fix these bad file names. If and when you're given a bad file name, then you will be, you need to be familiar with the process on how to rename that file to one that will work. When renaming, you need to keep in mind the first 3 characters of the short file name must reflect the date of the contest. This is not difficult to figure out because you'll probably receive lots of other valid files, and you can look at the first 3 characters of all the others and just follow along with the one you're renaming. Next 5 characters can be pretty much anything. Winscore doesn't care so much as long as there are 5. But you want to make it unique because you don't want conflicts with other files. And then you want to go ahead and scold the contestant for renaming his files. But I'm kidding there a little bit. You don't want to scold anyone. We're all here to have fun. I just want to bring it to his attention, and maybe if you give a talk at the beginning, at the first pilots meeting, you may want to remind contestants not to change their file names. Now we're going to proceed with a little bit of flight log management, how you want to manage your logs for a contest. You can do it a simple way, which is what we'll focus on in all these tutorials. You have one or more folders on your hard drive, and you'll put the logs there. For example, you'll receive the media from the contestant, whether it be flashcard, thumb drive, Cambridge log, or whatever, and you'll put them there yourself. A lot of scores get fancy. They use wireless networks, shared folders, have scripts and procedures to do all this. These tutorials are not aimed at the fancy users. They know how to do that, so we're just going to focus on the simple. But whether fancy or simple, since a large contest might generate hundreds of IGC files, a plan for organizing your logs is essential for successful scoring. You need to plan this out ahead of time. So how do you deal with flight logs in Winscore? Pretty simple, actually. You need to go into Winscore and tell it where you're putting your logs. That's fairly easy to do. We'll cover it in a moment. And Winscore has some tools to automate the receiving and processing of the flight logs. 3 tools Winscore provides: an import function that would let you go to another directory, another network location, or just a thumb drive or a flashcard, and select IGC and CAI files and bring it in. Or you can auto-copy from a flashcard. When you plug in a flashcard, Winscore can recognize it and look for valid IGC files there. Or Winscore also has Cambridge software embedded in it that will automatically let you download it from a GPS nav box. But all these 3 functions really do the same thing. They copy from the media, whether it be a log or flashcard, network location, copies from there to the folders you specify in Winscore. It will do a validation, the security check. Then if it's a CAI file, it will do a CAI and IGC conversion. But all these 3 functions are optional, really. If you're a power user and you copy the files to the correct location, do your own validation, your own conversion, you don't need to use these 3 functions of Winscore. They're